In the first 7 months of 2022, silver imports surged to 5,100 tons. Well, hello there, my friends. Chris Marcus here with you for Arcadia Economics. And in today's video, going to cover some news that is showing some strong silver demand and imports into India. Also go through some other silver data that's come out in the past week. But to dig in, here we have an article about how the investment demand to lift India's silver imports, at least at the current pace, to what could be a record high. India's silver imports set to triple in 2022 from a year ago. Now, to be fair, a year ago, things were still shut down from COVID, and there was not a lot of metal going in there, at least in the first half of the year. But higher demand in India, the world's biggest silver consumer, could support global prices. Investment demand has been boosting imports, said Chirag Thakur, a leading silver importer. In the first 7 months of 2022, silver imports surged to 5,100 tons from just 110 tons during the same period a year ago, which again, perhaps not the best comp to make, but still that's a lot of silver. The 5,100 tons, that comes out to 163 million ounces. Should that hit the 8,200 tons that he suggests there, which is a little bit less than the annualized pace, that would come out to 262 million ounces, which again, we take a look at the Silver Institute numbers. Here you see at least 2021, the mine production was 822 million, add in recycling, and you get to just about a billion. So that would be over a quarter of the world's silver supply going into India. So certainly some big numbers there. And take a look at a chart. This one comes from Metals Focus. Again, you can see things were pretty much shut down for the first half of the year. Although you see in July was really the big number. Well, both June and July, about 1,000 tons in June. Let's call that 17 or 1,800 in July. And you see the 1,000 tons would be a pretty big number in general. The 17 or 1,800 would be above any of the numbers we see here in the last 10 years. So quite a large amount of silver going into India. We have an investor, Umesh Patel, interesting, mentioned silver underperforming compared to gold. I hope it will rise sharply like the 2009 to 2011 period. Well, you and me both, my friend. Also noting quite strong industrial demand. Similar to the US, electronic solar panels have been increasing because of government incentives, where we saw the US with the Inflation Reduction Act, a lot of incentives and spending there on green technologies. And one last note from this article where they mentioned investors are anticipating poor man's gold will beat gold in coming years. It's certainly interesting to think about with the price of silver around $19 right now, gold at about 1750. And not really a shocking statement, because when you think about silver going up 50%, slightly under $30, where gold going up 50%, be about $2,500, $2,600, and certainly would be a big move for gold. And I guess it depends where you're starting from, but at least some commentary out of India suggesting seeing somewhat similar to at least what I've been imagining we might experience at some point. And here was another article, why demand for silver is soaring in India. Customers mainly buy bars and coins, but jewelry also growing in popularity. Here one jeweler mentions gold prices have gone so high, so people have diverted to silver because of their budget. Silver considered a safe haven asset along with gold. And with the recent fall in prices, market participants grabbed the opportunity to accumulate the metal. And again, speaking to the lower numbers that we saw in the first half of 2021 anyways, as we are out of lockdown and pandemic, investing in white metal amid India's festive and wedding seasons becomes even more attractive, which is already underway. And they talk about how some people are going to silver, especially with jewelry. Some prefer silver jewelry is a little bit cheaper, although which is not to say that that has necessarily overtaken gold demand. Quick to point out silver's popularity, still nowhere near that of gold for Indians, and a long tradition of gold in India. So in either case, a good chunk of silver being imported into India, perhaps explaining where some of that metal from the London and COMEX vaults has been going to. Quick look at the ETF flows, think SLV and the other trusts. You can see a smaller amount of silver has come out of the ETFs over the last few weeks. Had been a good chunk all throughout that price decline, which started in March. And you can see these red bars showing how many ounces back couple weeks here where you had almost 20 million ounces come out. So back here in March, you had about 1.59 billion ounces, and that's down to about 1.46. So 130 million ounces of silver coming out of the ETFs. Gold, you see the same trend. Good chunk of gold has been coming out over these recent months after seeing metal still going in April, but we've seen metal consistently come out. Has slowed a little bit over the past couple of weeks, but last week about 1.08 million ounces of gold removed from the ETFs. Quick look at the silver COT chart where you can see it was pretty steady over the past week, not a big change. Again, we had talked quite a bit about that reduction in the bank short position. That preceded a short rally, which has come back down over the past week or two. Similar pattern in gold here, where again, you saw that short position getting reduced quite a bit, and that preceded the rally in the blue line here in gold, although again, as well, gold price has come down, while the last week or so, we've seen not much change in the short and long positions between the banks and the speculative funds. Note here on the housing market, some say a housing recession. To be fair, median price last month was still up 10.8% from July of 2021, although sales of existing homes were down by 20.2% from a year earlier. And in the article, they talk about a bit of a shift in the tone of the housing market. Buyers are canceling contracts in the face of interest rates that jumped to 5.72% from below 3.3% heading into 2022. Mentioning here, not a recession in home prices, inventory remains tight, and prices continue to rise nationally, with 40% of homes still commanding a full list price, but signs that things are starting to shift. Al Bingham, mortgage loan officer at Momentum Loans, says, I'm seeing home buyers cancel contract if their payment is just a little higher than they expected, even if that's just $100. Last year, buyers were at the mercy of whatever sellers were asking, and there were multiple offers, but not seeing that quite as much now. Seeing contingencies accepted and probably a more balanced market. Too many buyers chasing after too few properties. Those days are over. Again, we do not have a Fed meeting this month, although market looking forward to Jerome Powell's commentary this Friday at their Jackson Hole meeting. And then in September, it looks like there will be either a 50 or 75 basis point interest rate hike. And that's just about a month away right now. So one last note before we wrap up, would like to thank Kuya Silver for bringing us today's video as they are moving their Bethania project closer to production. Estimated by David Stein of Kuya Silver at under 12 months now. They do have an option to do some toll milling with some of the ore, which could bring that a little bit forward as they still plan to build their own mill, but I know he wants to get into production soon and begin generating cash flow. So you can find out more about that at kuyasilver.com. And with that said, we'll wrap up for today, but thanks as always for joining me, and I'll see you again tomorrow.